Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today I am going to do a double VR. I'm a bit behind. This month has just flown by. It doesn't help that, you've got sports on every night. My Dodgers in the World Series. And there are two great members of this community that have VRs out there that tomorrow's the deadline. So I'm going to do a VR for both Brian Hodges 1455 and Rob Cash Cards. Both Brian and Rob are celebrating 300 subscribers. So congratulations, guys. Well deserved to both of you. I think we're going to start with Brian. If you haven't seen Brian's channel, he's a great member of the community out there commenting on everybody's stuff, but I like the way he collects. He's really eclectic. I mean, he collects soccer, NASCAR, football, baseball, basketball, collects Hall of Famers, non-Hall of Famers, and most of what he collects, he has a personal touch to him, which is what I like about the hobby. I love it when people give us their personal touches on who they like. And Brian asked us to share 3 players who aren't going to make it to the Hall of Fame most likely that we enjoyed watching. So I'm going to do that, Brian. First of all, though, before I jump into the 3 players, I'd be remiss if I didn't show these 3 players. Steve Garvey, my, outside of Clemente and Aaron, this is my favorite player growing up. Donnie Baseball, Don Mattingly, and Dave Parker. These 3 guys, I'm not sure they're going to get in the Hall. They should be in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. I also think that was too easy of an answer, Brian. But I just wanted to give those guys my "you should be in the Hall of Fame" nod. The 3 guys that I am going to call out for you, Brian, the first person is this guy right here, and it's Orel Hershiser. Man, I'm a Dodger fan, and this guy, he had a 3 or 4 year run where he was just amazing. From 85 to 89, he finished third, fourth, he finished third and fourth in the Cy Young, then he won the Cy Young, and then he finished fourth again. In 85, he was 19-3 with a 2.03 ERA. The next year, with a 3.06 ERA, he was 16-16 because those Dodger teams weren't that great. Then 88 was the magic year where, he set the streak for scoreless innings. He was 23-8 with a 2.26 ERA, won the Cy Young. I was in the stands when they won the title that year. He came back the next year and had a 2.31 ERA, and then he had some arm problems, but he's still late in his career. Went to Cleveland and put up some good numbers, and all told, he won 204 games. He was a 3-time All-Star, but man, could he pitch. And he was, even if he didn't have his best stuff, they called him the Bulldog for a reason. He was a gutsy ball player, and I loved watching Hershiser play. Another guy I liked watching play was this guy right here, Kirk Gibson. He was just a gutsy ball player. Anytime he walked on the field, you got your all from him. And there was probably a 6 or 7 year span where, 25 to 30 homers and 25 to 30 stolen bases. But it's just what he brought to the clubhouse, both with the Tigers when they won their title. And then when he came over to the Dodgers, and he and Hershiser pretty much carried them to a title that year. So he was just a great player to watch, and somebody that he won't make the Hall of Fame, but boy, did I enjoy watching Kirk Gibson play. And the last guy, this guy was just an absolute monster, and that was Darryl Strawberry. Man, when he came up, talk about a player, man. He could throw, he could run, he could hit, and, he was the kind of guy when the game was on, if you weren't in the room and he came to bat, you ran into the room to watch him swing that bat. Man, could he crush the ball. And, his first, I think, 8 or 9 years were just amazing. By the age of 29, he had 280 home runs, right? And we all know the problems he had. He was on a Hall of Fame trajectory, and unfortunately, it didn't happen. But man, was he a great player to watch. So there you have it, Brian. These are three guys that I always enjoyed watching play ball. And guys that, although they won't make it to the Hall of Fame, they were three of my favorites to watch. The next VR I want to do is for my good friend Rob over at Cash Cards. Rob's also celebrating 300 subscribers. And, Rob is a great guy, great member of the community. I love the way he does videos too. Just like Brian, his videos, like the cards he collects and the stories he tells, he ties them to meanings. And to me, that's the cool part about this hobby, is when the cards you collect have meaning for you, whether it's with his son or with his family, or just from his childhood. Rob's got a great channel. So if you haven't checked out Brian or Rob, I'm going to link them below, and please go check them out. Rob asked us to tell what the favorite home run that we witnessed was. And Rob, I'm 63, so I have more than one, right? But there are three distinctive home runs that I remember. So the first one that I want to talk about happened in 1971 on July 13th, and it was the All-Star Game. And I was 11 years old or 10 years old at the time, and this was before ESPN or the MLB. So, there weren't a lot of games televised, but the All-Star Game was big. It was huge, and everybody watched that game. And, this guy for the National League was on the mound, and the National League, I believe, had a 3-1 lead, 3-0 lead early in the game. And Doc Ellis was pitching, and he was a pretty hard thrower back then. And in the second inning, this guy right here, Reggie Jackson, they asked him to come pinch hit. And, the funny thing was, this was his second All-Star Game, and he made it, I think, as an alternate player. And, he thought to himself, "Wow, they're pinch hitting me early. They're not even waiting for the big time," right? And the story he also told was that before he left, Sal Bando had told him, "Hey, don't embarrass this kid. Don't strike out." And he got up there against Ellis, and he had an 0-2 count. And he kept thinking in the back of his mind everything that Bando had said: "I can't strike out. I can't strike out." So he choked up on the bat for the first time in his career, and on the 0-2 count. And then he hit the next ball. It just exploded off his bat. Probably the loudest bat I think I've heard. And it was on TV when I was watching this thing. And this ball took off, went up and hit the light tower on the roof. And the trajectory was still carrying when it hit the light tower. They believe the shot was 532 feet. I would tell you, it was the most amazing thing I'd seen up until that time. And, the next day at school, that's all any of us talked about was, "Did you see Reggie? Did you see that shot he hit?" It was an amazing home run. Number two for me, and the number two one for me is, a lot of people would probably think it's my number one home run, but it's not. This one happened on October 15th in 1988, and it's a pretty classic home run. It was the Dodgers and the Giants in Game 1 of the World Series, and the Dodgers weren't even supposed to be there. People forget that to get there, they had to beat the Mets, who had won 100 games that year, and they did because of this guy right here, Kirk Gibson. And he was the MVP that year. He had 25 homers, a 290 batting average, and 31 stolen bases. And he hit, I think, 2 or 3 home runs in the series to get the Dodgers past the Mets. But in doing so, he hurt his right knee and he hurt his left hamstring, and he was not going to be able to play. And everybody knows late in the game, they called for him to pitch hit, and he came up to face this guy, Dennis Eckersley, who he was just hands down the best closer in baseball. I mean, lights out. For me, outside of Mariano Rivera, I don't think I've seen a better closer than Eckersley. He was lights out. And, you know, Gibson hobbled up to the plate. And I don't have to tell you guys what happened. You guys have all seen this thing. But he pretty much, with just all arms, launches that ball into the right field stands, goes around the bases, chugging on his arm the whole way. Vince Scully eloquently talks about that blast, and it was an amazing home run, and it's my second favorite home run of all time. And you'd think as a Dodger fan that would easily be the first, but I talked about this on just a video just the other day. My favorite home run of all time happened in 1974. I think it was April 8th, April 13th, one of the two. And this guy was on the mound, pitching to Henry Aaron. And, you know, Henry Aaron, you know, when I was a kid, you could ask anybody in my class, how many home runs did Babe Ruth hit? And we'd all shout 714 in a heartbeat. Everybody knew how many home runs he hit. And Aaron was closing in on that home run title. And he finished the season. He finished the season one home run off of the record. And he started 1974, and in the first game of the season, he hit a home run to tie the record in Cincinnati on the road. And then he didn't hit any the rest of that series, and he came in to play the Dodgers. And Mr. Downing was on the mound, and Mr. Aaron stepped to the plate. And, you know, I remember it because I was there with my family, and my mom wanted, I believe it was a Monday night, my mom wanted to go to dinner. She wanted to go to, there was a Mexican restaurant in Glendora, California called Pepe's at the time, and this was 50 years ago, so I'm sure it's not there anymore, but she wanted to go to dinner. And my dad and I were trying to stick around for the game, and my mom was like, we need to go to dinner. And finally I said, Mom, come on, Henry Aaron's up again, so can we please watch him hit? And he came up, I believe it was the fourth inning, and with a man on, he launched a 2-run home run. He hit it deep into left field. I remember Billy Buckner climbing the fence, Tom House making the catch, Henry rounding the bases. A couple fans came out, young gentlemen came out and were running with him and patting him on the back. And then, you know, when he crossed home plate, they had the whole celebration. His mom was there. That, you know, for me, I mean, that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. I was a Henry Aaron fan. He had just passed Babe Ruth's all-time record, which, you know, a lot of people thought would never be broken. And that, Rob, was my my all-time favorite home run. So there you have it, both Rob and Brian. First of all, congratulations both on 300 subs. Well deserved. I appreciate everybody letting me take the time to tell my story. And until we talk again, stay safe, keep collecting. We'll talk to you soon.